Many are astonished by the huge transformation China has gone through in recent years. In Beijing, you are constantly surrounded by the hustle and bustle of preparations for the 2008 Olympic Games, when all eyes will be on China. Those who come to China for the Games or view it on television will be astounded by the modernization, innovation, development, and massive growth. A 2.5-hour drive north of Beijing begins to reveal a different world. Here, in the suburbs of Beijing, the poor suffer the worst kind of poverty. Living so close to the wealth of the big city is a constant reminder of what they do not have. Many will visit this town to see the Great Wall. Much like the 2008 Olympics, this structural wonder is a symbol of Chinese prosperity. Unfortunately, not all of those who come to see this famous landmark will notice the poverty that lies right beneath it. 20 minutes outside Zhangjiakou, China changes once again.
我叫刘栋，13，上山玩一会儿，那边钻洞。
你去过北京吗？
去过，我爸8、9岁。
For those living in cities, life has been looking promising. There have been more opportunities for employment and an increased quality of life. The rural Chinese, however, are the silent victims of China's economic reform as they are caught in a cycle of dependency and poverty. While the benefits of free trade have been highly regarded by those generating wealth, it has failed to distribute itself amongst the rest of the population, thus intensifying the gap between the rich and the poor, the urban and the rural Chinese. It is the linking of China to foreign markets that has caused a significant amount of the disparity. A tax, often called a tariff, was used in the past to protect local farmers from the competition of imports. This protection allowed them to continue their traditional methods of farming while having the opportunity to earn a decent living. Now that the government has removed the tariffs on imported goods, local farmers are left without the means to compete in the thriving marketplace. As a result, an increasing number of rural Chinese now live below the poverty line. According to Chinese environmentalists, in the areas outside Beijing, there are some cities and villages that in 5 to 7 years will run out of water. China has only a fraction of the water it needs, and 1/3 of the country is already desert. Approximately 2/3 of China's power comes from coal and coal products, which happen to be the cheapest, dirtiest, and most polluting forms of energy. Often these polluting factories are part of the main industries. They are important taxpayers, so local governments do not want to see them close down because it would interfere with economic development. Even though it appears that China has evolved rapidly over the last few decades, in many poor regions, the lives of the people have not changed for centuries. A 15-hour train ride from Zhangjiakou brings you into Li County. From here, another 4.5-hour drive brings you to a remote village called Taoshui. Here you will find a community that is built on cooperation and Chinese tradition. The principal of Taoshui's elementary school is a rare find because locating a qualified and dedicated teacher for such a remote location can be very difficult.
从1984年9月份开始，在这个学校，从98年
可以说是爱孝如家，爱生如子。
There is a sense of community here that is hard to find in Chinese cities. Even though land is very scarce in this remote town, a village elder recognized the need for a new school and donated his land. Thanks to the help of local and international NGOs, access to schools is improving in rural China.
以前的学校很破旧，我们坐在教室里读书是很冷的，冻得人直发抖。
以前我那所学校呢，没有门，没有窗。
但现在这个学校很漂亮，我很喜欢这个学校。
Unfortunately, most rural children will not receive an education beyond the 9 years required under China's compulsory education law. Instead, they will face prospects of farming or low-skilled migrant work.
家长呢，因为农村啊比较偏远，家长对孩子们的读书呢不是太重视。
是老师免费的。
你以后也还想继续当农民吗？
因为爷爷和奶奶苦。
The future of China's children is not only dependent on their access to education. The declining condition of the country's environment is also an issue that will affect their future.
因为水污染了，会对我们没有好处的。
不知道。
都是从河里挑来的，担心。就在这个村里，因为别的地方我们很穷，去不了。
Pollution is severe as the government estimates that 40% of water in China's major rivers is fit only for industrial and agricultural use. This has resulted in more than 300 million rural Chinese living without clean drinking water.
因为女孩子啦，在我们农村，就是一般都是还是重男轻女啊。现在虽然有点改变，但是呢，在多少年来的历史的原因。
Having a family with many boys is considered a blessing in Chinese culture. Changes in government guidelines, however, have seriously limited that possibility. In order to slow down the rapid growth of its population, China developed a policy in 1979 called the Planned Birth Policy that limited the number of children a couple could have to 1. There are fines to be paid for having multiple children, but there are also rewards for only having one. Signs like this are commonly found in rural China. Unfortunately, many parents cannot afford to pay the fines for having a second child and have to abandon these children in orphanages.
因为我感觉，我感觉，如果我要是说我自己不幸福的话，也许还有人比我更悲惨，他的命运也许比我，我们两个相对比来说，我是更幸福的，所以。
These abandoned children are often joined by the children of poor and migrant families who cannot afford to keep them. Other children are also survivors of parents who have been imprisoned or those who have died of HIV/AIDS.
没有学校的时候，我最喜欢那个玩，也喜欢练功。我想做那个武术家。
对他们一般都是多数的小孩子都是没有亲人，只有一个人，所以我们少林寺的方丈，给他们这个城市里最好的学校，给他们读书，给他们练习功夫，就是为了让他们振作起来，认为自己是一个人才，走向社会。我们首先以佛家本身是一个慈悲为怀的心理，我们会帮助一些乞丐或者穷人，会给他们一些吃的或穿的衣服，我们通常是这样做的。
Buddhism has historically been very popular among China's people. It is estimated that Chinese Buddhists range in number from 280 to 350 million people. Honoring Chinese tradition is a very important aspect of the country's culture. Today's rural youth, however, are looking beyond their traditional way of life and are hoping for a future full of opportunities.
让同学们去看一下，见识一下现在的大城市外面的变化有多大。教育他们呢，好好的学习，不要放弃自己的学业。
听姑姑讲过，北京人比较多，然后城市非常的大，那里非常的美丽。
结果是很美丽的，很漂亮的，很迷人啊！我想是一个把我们村子能搞得像大城市一样。
因为让孩子得到更多的知识，文明。我想救助孤儿。
我希望每一个国家，都很繁荣，然后各个国家的人民应该是都很富强，生活都很幸福，而且最起码这个地球的环境应该是很美好的，不像现在有很多环境的问题。
Unfortunately, these are the voices of China that are rarely heard. The voices that are drowned out by the sounds of industrialization and modernization of the country's big cities. With China's government focusing its efforts on the prosperity of its high-profile areas, like Beijing, this new generation of hopeful rural Chinese will struggle to be noticed.